Out from the marsh, from the misty hills and bogs, bearing Gaul's hatred, Grendel came, hoping to kill anyone he could trap on his trip to High Heroat. He moved quickly through the cloudy night, up from his swampland, sliding silently toward the gold-shining hall. He had visited Hrothgar's home before,
Then
knew
snapped
the
it
way,
open
but
towards
never
Iron
before,
Bastards with a
nor
touch,
after
and
that
rushed
night,
angrily
had
over the
Hrothgar
threshold.
been so firmly, his
He strode
reception
quickly
so
across the inlet
harsh.
floor,
He journeyed
snarling
forever,
and fierce. His eyes
forever
gleamed
joined
in the
straight to
darkness,
the door.
burned with a gruesome light. Then he stopped, seeing the hall crowded with sleeping warriors. They weren't sleeping, stuffed with rows of young soldiers resting together. And his heart laughed. He relished the sight, intended to tear the life from those bodies. By morning, the monster's mind was hot with the thought of food, and the feasting his belly would soon know. But fate, that night, intended Grendel to gnaw the broken bones of his last human supper. Human eyes were watching his evil steps, waiting to see his swift, hard claws. Grendel snatched at the first seal he came to, ripped him apart, cut his body to bits with powerful jaws, drank the blood from his veins, and bolted him down, hands and feet. Death. And Grendel's great teeth came together, snapping life shut. Then he stepped to another still body, clutched at Beowulf with claws, grasped at a strong-hearted, wakeful sleeper, and was instantly seized himself. Claws bent back as Beowulf leaned up on one arm. Ugh! That shepherd of evil, guardian of crime, knew at once that nowhere on earth had he met a man whose hands were harder. His mind was flooded with fear. But nothing could take his talons and himself from the tight, hard grip. Grendel once thought was to run from Beowulf, flee back to his marsh and hide there. This was a difficult heroat. Then the hall he had emptied, but Higlac's followers remembered his final boast. Standing erect, stopped the monster's flight, fastened those claws in his fists till they cracked, clutched Grendel closer. The infamous killer fought for his freedom, wanting no flesh but retreat, desiring nothing more than escape. His claws had been caught, he was trapped. The trip to Heorot was a miserable journey. Beowulf had been granted glory. Grendel escaped, but wounded as he could flee to his den, his miserable hole at the bottom of the marsh, only to die, to wait for the end of all his days. And after that bloody combat the Danes laughed with delight. He who had come to them from across the sea, bold and strong-minded, had driven affliction off, purged Heorot clean. He was happy now. With that night's fierce work, the Danes had been served as he boasted he served them. Beowulf, a prince of the Geats, had killed Grendel, ended the grief, the sorrow, the suffering, forced on Hrothgar's helpless people by a bloodthirsty fiend. No Dane doubted the victory, for the proof, hanging high from the rafters where Beowulf had hung it, was the monster's arm, claw, and shoulder and all. For then, in the morning, crowds surrounded Heorot, warriors coming to the hall from faraway lands, princes and leaders of men hurrying to behold the monster's great staggering tracks. They gaped with no sense of sorrow, felt no regret for his suffering, when tracing his bloody footprints, his beaten and lonely flight, to the edge of the lake, where he dragged his corpse-like way, doomed and already weary of his vanishing life. The water was bloody, steaming, and boiling. In horrible pounding waves, heat sucked from his magic veins. But swirling surf had covered his death, hidden deep in the murky darkness, his miserable end. All hell opened to receive him. Then old and young rejoiced, turned back from the happy pilgrimage, mounted their hard-hooded horses, high-spirited stallions, and rode them slowly toward Heorot again, retelling Beowulf's bravery as they jogged along. And over they swore that nowhere on earth or under the spreading sky or between the seas, neither south nor north, was there a warrior worthier to rule over men, and no one meant Beowulf's praise to belittle Hrothgar, their kind and gracious king.